says he attacked her after she refused to give him her cell phone number, all while a crowd of men stood there watching.
I want to apologize for being defensive and not being brutally honest and acknowledging two things from the jump.
$32,000 when you steal anywhere between $30,000 and $150,000 in the state of Texas, that's a third-degree felony. So she's looking at anywhere from a minimum of 2 years to a maximum of 10 years in the state penitentiary.
It made it seem like men were trash because it didn't come to her aid.
Oh, how the mighty have fallen. This brick lady thing has really brought out some of the worst in people, just in being stuck and not being able to apologize. But just so happens that several people that had a very aggressive tone towards the people that were critical of the brick lady when it happened back in September have kind of flipped, and now some of them are having to apologize. When, if they had just listened to us, we wouldn't have even had to be here. Y'all got to start listening to black men. Let's take a look at how they started versus where they are today. This is Isaiah, the Isaiah Factor.
To anybody in my life to deserve this? Literally, a man asked me for my number. I said no, and he picked up a brick in front of so many men and was like, "What you gonna do?" And I told all these men,
what you gonna do?
Why is this man got a brick on my face?
According to her social media, this happened over the weekend. We reached out to HPD for some information. Public relations specialist Bridget Holden, Latoya Lemon, along with pastor and journalist Dr. Ruth Olson. Glad they all have you here on the Fact Runs. When you guys see this, and
First off, what's going on with that lady's hair right there?
She's saying there were a group of men standing around, probably on their damn cell phones, looking to get the shot instead of trying to protect a woman. Your thoughts on this?
He said probably on their damn cell phones instead of helping. That sounds logical, right? Is that what we really do out here doing? We're trying to have people believe that dudes are just so cowardly that they're going to be standing around on their cell phones taking a video? Okay.
Being protected these days. I mean, but then I don't know if you watch social media, but then there are a lot of women on here who are saying, well, I don't need a man and I don't need this and I don't need that. So we kind of have to take accountability. If we're out here saying that, then are the men going to protect us? But I thought that chivalry is, I guess, is dead.
Dead.
Yeah.
But who killed chivalry? If it is in fact dead, I would say women most likely killed chivalry. You'll get knocked over if you try to open the door for a woman nowadays. Have you ever tried? This is the thing. Like, these are the ideas that they don't actually put into the criticism that they bring. But mind you, this is September. We're going to see how they act now.
First of all, someone hitting her with a brick because she refused to give their number, if all the facts are correct.
Absolutely. So I understand.
He at least said if all the facts are correct.
Rejection is hard, right? But my real issue here, of course, I don't condone any violence and I don't like it, but the men that stood around and watched, people are no longer getting any type of help in situations that they need help in. People are not being decent. People are making everything a joke, everything a moment to go viral. And this could have been, this is this lady's health. You know, this could have went even worse, and she could still be in the hospital with severe damages. And so to see that nobody helped her, I mean, that's heartbreaking completely.
And of course, Dr. Olson, we're talking about a new generation that's not used to rejection, not playing the old school rule games where you just keep trying, And then you have people who, if they see someone who's in trouble, they think videotaping it is their response to helping them out, and that's not the case.
Yeah, they're all of a sudden citizen journalists instead of helping. I want to just express so much compassion for this young lady, and I also want to express a lot of concern for where we are if people can stand around and watch that. We do have to get involved. She asked a question in that. She said, what did I ever do to deserve this? Nothing. You didn't do anything to deserve it.
Boy, what a difference a day makes when you think about where she is now versus where she was then.
That. So we want to put that out there. And also let's make an appeal that let's help people.
Right.
We've got to get back involved. That's who we are. A lot of the social media has separated us, and a lot of us think, well, it's just me. It's all about me. It's you going viral. It's one thing for sure. She made the right decision in not giving him her phone number.
Remember that plea on social media. You may remember when we covered her story last September. Brigitte, you and I were duped too. Yep. We fell for it like a damn fool. She claimed the man threw a brick at her because she wouldn't give him her phone number. But investigators say the attack never happened. Joining us to talk about it, publicist Brigitte Holden, attorney Ricky Hernandez.
Still got that same hair. We got to do some research to find out if that's real. That's quite impressive if it is, I guess. It's interesting looking.
She was in Jamaica.
Yeah, she was.
Tell us about that video she posted. How long ago did she post that video?
I want to say that was
the Jamaica video was old, so unfortunately they got that wrong.
There's a lot of stuff around this case that just didn't feel right from the jump, and even more so as we came into the last few days.
And Ricky Hernandez, when you look at this from a criminal perspective, what is she looking at here? What is HPD charged her with? What does that mean?
Right, so she's been charged with theft by deception. So theft is a crime that, based on basically the amount of money stolen, that's going to affect the degree of the crime, right? So with her crime in particular, she's stolen, as Brigitte said, $42,000. When you steal anywhere between $30,000
plus all the cash apps and Venmo she collected, that can't be left out of this equation, because she probably collected just as much in those places, allegedly.
and $150,000 in the state of Texas, that's a third-degree felony. So she's looking at anywhere from a minimum of 2 years to a maximum of 10 years in the state penitentiary.
That's interesting to hear. 2 to 10 years is a penalty that goes along with this if she is convicted, which is interesting. I wonder why they set the bond so low. The bond was only $10,000. So I initially thought that would be, she had to come up with the $10,000 and her bond was actually $100,000, but her bond was only $10,000, which makes me think that they're not really taking it that seriously in her being a flight risk or her being, released on her own recognizance. Because she only has to come up with 10% of that, which is, what, $1,000.
What would her attorney have to come into court and show that she did not commit fraud or deception here?
Right, so basically the way it's written now is in the complaint, it has not been indicted yet, but is that she unlawfully appropriated basically the property of GoFundMe. So she would have to prove that she basically received the property, or in this case it's cash money. She would have to prove that she received those profits lawfully. But I mean, as it seems now, those profits were obtained by deception, and if that's the case, then she's probably guilty.
Yeah, and that goes to all the people that are still defending her that say, oh, well, she didn't receive the money, so she's not guilty. Like I said, they're doing the investigation based on some of the other money she received as well. And the thing about GoFundMe is you can withdraw throughout the course of the fundraising. So it's a possibility that the $42,000 part of it she did receive, as well as anything that came through Cash App, as well as anything that came through Venmo.
And really quick, explain for the viewer when you say she's been charged but she hasn't been indicted. Make the difference there. What does that mean to the average layman out there?
Right, so an indictment is really a term specific to felonies. I know it's thrown out a lot, but basically the prosecutors for the Harris County will have to prove the facts to what's called the grand jury, which is a group of 12 people from the cross-section of the community, and they will see the facts from the prosecutor's point of view, and they will decide whether or not there's enough charges or enough evidence there to move forward. And if that's the case, then they will move on with the court proceedings. And
right now what we're looking at is investigative work by HPD or the law enforcement agency, and the DA saying go ahead and charge her.
Correct. Yeah, there's definitely enough
before the grand jury.
Yes, Isaiah, that's correct.
All right. Brigitte, how will this impact other victims in the future if we see people on social media saying someone attacked me, they hit me with a brick, and it's because I didn't do this or that?
Well, you know, the court of public perception is always, you know, stronger than the actual court of law. And so now when someone comes forward, whether black, white, or whatever female, people are not going to jump so soon to believe them. So it's kind of a dangerous thing. It's like, do we come to their aid, or are they crying wolf? You know, that story we were told as a little kid, you know, and so now it puts people on guard, if you will. Do I trust this person? Are they telling the truth, or is it another brick lady? Do I trust this person? Are they telling the truth, or is it another brick lady? So you never know.
And of course, we covered this in the beginning.
We did.
Very convincing.
Yep, very convincing.
You know, crying and said no other men would come to her aid. They would only take video.
Yep, and men were, you know, dragged because it made it seem like men were trash because they didn't come to her aid. And a lot of times, women, I'm trying to...
That can't be said enough. Men were dragged. We took strays. Me personally, we took strays for even questioning the idea that this could be a false story. Why? Your guess is as good as mine. Because when I really think about it, like, what did these women have to lose by this woman's story being false? And the fact that we could see that there were inconsistencies, the fact that we could see that realistically getting hit in the face by a brick would not cause that type of damage. It would cause much worse damage. And this is why I say you got to start listening to black men, because we're not just, you know, tooting our horn just because we're hateful. Basically, any man that's online that has a show, that has a podcast or whatever, is being told that their voice is not needed, is being told that they're actually causing more harm than good. And I think that rhetoric needs to stop. Just because we haven't heard men talk in this way, just because we haven't heard men have a conversation that shows the experience that they've had in life, somehow it's wrong. Somehow it's negative. Somehow it's bashing. That needs to stop. We've just been having a one-way dialogue, and now the internet has allowed an opportunity for us to have a full conversation. And this young lady weaponized that. She weaponized it. She made, you know, and even a thing like reach, there's definitely an issue because the lie got around the internet 10 times before the truth ever caught traction. Not only that, the people that were in opposition to that were not getting as many views, as much reach. They didn't have as big of platforms. They weren't growing from this. It's something to be said about that. That somebody that could be loud and wrong gets way more traction than the truth every time.
Use my words carefully, but because we're damsels in distress, if you will, men are now going to be very cautious about coming to a person's aid, a female, if they think that she's lying. So now it's not trusted.
But Isaiah Carey and his guests weren't the only ones that had to figure out how to retract what they were saying about the brick lady situation. There were some other folks that were very loud and vocal in their support of the brick lady. And one of them in particular was the Conscious Lee. The Conscious Lee is an interesting character in himself. He felt the pressure. He felt the pressure from you all. He felt the pressure from the people in his comments. Every time he put up a video trying to talk about something different, he had to basically turn a blind eye to the fact that he wasn't admitting he was wrong. But he did do sort of a mea culpa.
I want to apologize for being defensive and not being brutally honest and acknowledging two things from the jump. Yes, Ro lied about how she was hit and what happened when she was hit, but she was in fact hit. At this point, I can acknowledge, however, it's way bigger than Ro, and that this particular issue is being used to drive division and conflict in the black community, especially amongst men and women. And that's why I'm taking responsibility for. I apologize for how my initial egotistical response contributed into this proxy gender war that's going on, that's literally hurting the camaraderie and unity in our community amongst black men and black women. That is not the goal or the purpose, and I apologize for that. Peep game. I was linking to what I can't stand when content creators do. When you experience backlash against your audience, you can't act like everybody in the audience are ops because, in fact, this your audience. And you can't act like the backlash is just merely illegitimate. You got to have some integrity and be reflective about what's going on right now. And I'm sorry, y'all, that it took me a couple of days to really get off my defensive bucket to really think about what's happening. Not only did I let a lot of y'all down, I let myself down as well. I make content to elevate our community, not diminish our community. I make content to edify our community, not reduce our community. And I acknowledge that the last video I've made, specifically when it comes to Roe being charged, was doing the opposite of what I want. Moving forward, I'll be less reactionary when it comes to hearing stories on social media and more mission-driven with how I respond.
So anyway, for what it's worth, there was an apology there. This guy was very condescending in tone and very unwilling to listen to any sort of reason when people were saying this story sounds crazy. This story sounds ridiculous. This woman did not get hit with a brick. And that is the main focus. He was the one who came up with the angle that a lot of the ladies on TikTok are running with, that, oh, well, she did get hit, but she just lied about the way that she got hit. Well, the pretense on why she was able to raise $42,000 was the fact that people thought she got hit with a brick. That is the reason. So for you to say anything else, anything other than that, is trying to go around the thing, right? They also leave out the fact, conveniently, all the time, that she hit him first. And there's video proof of that fact, that she swung on him first, that she was hitting him. Olin said she kicked him in the car. As a reflex, he swung back at her in self-defense. So the police seem to understand that. Everybody else seems to understand that. But for some reason, the online masses and her supporters still, they must think it's fine for a woman to haul off and hit a dude because he's a man and she's a woman. Not all men are wrapped too tight. Some of these men are going to be out here doing who knows what if you strike them. So just be prepared if that's how you're moving out here in these streets. That's all I'm saying about it. If it wasn't for Conscious Lee, and Conscious Lee has a huge platform on TikTok, 2.5 million followers. But the problem was, every time he would put up a video about anything else, since the time he put out that original video, which was right here, which he's now muted, doesn't have any sound anymore, ridiculous. They have been tearing him up in the comments. The comment section is cooking, bro. Doubling down is insanity. Damn, Lee. It's like you didn't even hear yourself. If I believe all women was a person, bro, accountability. I'm always on your side, bro. This one, I can't. Even his supporters couldn't mess with it. That's right. Be predictable. Double down, dude. After she attacked him, the depth of coping here is wild. I'm genuinely concerned for this man's mental health. The backtracking is wild, though. This double down is out of pocket. I applaud you for your efforts to save face. They were killing him in the content. It reminds me of that Adrian Broner meme.
I ain't gonna lie, I'm getting cooked.
Bro is gaslighting. This is wild. But you know what? I think I got something though. Just a refresher of where he was. But what could he have said in that video that was so controversial that he had to get rid of the sound? This is, mind you, this is right after the Brick Lady is supposed to be turning herself in the jail.
Woman known as Brick Lady charged in Houston after being accused of making the whole thing up, raising $42,000. So nobody read the article though, huh? Consciously, when are you gonna apologize? Because that little heifer was scamming. I told you she was scamming, she was lying. When you gonna apologize? The apology better be as loud as the support for her too. And before we even get into what the article proves and disproves, let's state the obvious. A lot of y'all don't have as much hope and legitimacy into the system or the legal process until it's about disproving support of a black woman. Then all of a sudden, y'all become legal advocates because just a couple of days ago, y'all was all about Martin Luther Majors being a victim of the system because his victim lied about the details in which how it happened. The article proves that she was assaulted, but that she did not give the correct details about how it happened. According to charging documents, Osman and Douglas were in an argument.
This is what you call a reach. He was reaching. He was like, okay, let me read and see if there's a way that there's got to be an angle.
And Douglas reportedly swung his right hand while holding what appeared to be a plastic bottle and struck Osman in the face. Now, why is the headline written in the way to presume she made the whole thing up when the article itself states that she was assaulted, but that she allegedly lied about how she was assaulted? So for the people in the back, the reason why she's being charged with fraud is because law enforcement has said, no, you were assaulted, but you lied about how you said you was assaulted. Therefore, all the money you raised is fraud, which literally leaves me scratching my goddamn head. Now, the GoFundMe that is being called into question was about helping her recover and paying for medical bills because she was assaulted. Now, the article itself states that she was assaulted. So what a fraud come in? So y'all gonna piss on my hand and tell me it's raining, huh? The article also states they were able to find video of the defendant and another person who they believe was the accused assaulter. They got in the car. They both got out the car.
He's losing the fact that the story originally was this guy asked me for my number and put a brick up to my face and said, what are you going to do? Can we just say that? We just missed that whole point. He's all around here talking in circles about some other stuff in the article, but we also going to talk about that bottle. We got to talk about the true nature of this bottle because I don't think a plastic water bottle is doing that much damage. And they say the police is pretty clear on what they think the bottle was. How do you get that much damage from a plastic water bottle? Could she have been injured or, some kind of issue before she walked into the club with a face mask on? Because she had a face mask on the whole interaction with Olin Douglas.
That slapped the male who responded by slapping her back. He did have a water bottle in his hand, and we think that's what left a mark on her face. But it was mutual combat. That's what they said. So they charged this woman
after she started something with him.
With fraud. Because she said she was hit by a brick, but they said she was hit by a water bottle, but they do acknowledge she was hit. They do acknowledge it was marks left on her face. So she can't get a GoFundMe to take care of
No.
And then
the story was she got hit by a brick, and that's why it went viral. That's why people had sympathy for her. You're deceiving the people at that point. If you make up a story, and I said this in one of my videos, I said, it sounds a lot like she read the news, the headlines, because there was a woman that got hit in the face with a brick in Africa, probably a month prior to that. She heard that story and she was like, I bet you I can capitalize on this. Why not make up this story? Sounds like a good theory, allegedly.
Really the part that had me scratching my ass. TikTokers provide police information on Osman false claims past alleged scams. During the investigation, detectives said they received call from Daphne Sutton, a mental health advocate and blogger on TikTok who believed Osman was conducting a scam because similar situation happened in Minneapolis in 2020. Daphne Sutton, the queen of accountability that literally made about 30, it's exaggeration. I say probably like 10 to 15 different Twitter videos about her calling Houston law enforcement and saying, hey, Ro, she's scamming. Queen of accountability. So according to law enforcement, it was a plastic water bottle that left this mark on her face. Not no saline, not no injections, not that she made it up. Like it was a water bottle apparently.
Could have been.
Second thing. They claim in the article it was mutual combat. That's what the law enforcement said. But one individual had a object, the other one did not. And the individual that had an object was a man, but it's mutual combat. Interesting.
So that is the little bit of gaslighting that got his audience to turn on him and for him to feel that heat and have to apologize. I think it's only right that they did that. But either way, what is the lesson here? To not fly off the handle before all the facts are out. The lesson is to not think you know it all just because you think you're better than a group of men that are critical of an issue that flies against your perceived idea of what happened. Because if you had stopped and listened and been like, hey, maybe these dudes have a point. Instead of writing people off, this is a problem we have these days. People write men's opinions off just because they're men, especially black men. It's gotten so bad that there's certain populations of black men that don't even get counted when they're taking polls and when they're talking about the public opinion. And they've not been able to join the discussion writ large. They've been called extreme. I think that needs to stop because it's not only women that do this, it's also men like Conscious Lee, who immediately have some type of negative version of who these people are. And that's unfortunate. But I would say that phenomenon in itself is why the black community is in the position that it is right now, because it doesn't value everybody that belongs to that community. I'm not going to dwell on it for too long, but if you like this video, like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell notification for all uploads. If you want to watch more, please watch one of these videos down below. Make sure you join the Patreon. This is Faucette Media.
I ain't gonna lie, I'm getting cooked.